It's time for the top 10 goalies right now. Schneid's representing the goalie union, Rupper, Tony. We can all disagree on a lot of things about hockey. Schneid's, the one thing everybody agrees on is you can't win the cup unless you have good goaltending, and everybody in the world defines their career based on winning the cup.
Well, that's totally true. Goaltending is one of those things that you're good until you don't have it, right? So this is going to be interesting to go over who we think are the top goalies in the league right now. It changes a lot year to year, as we were talking about. Very volatile position. Goaltending is voodoo, as they say. But happy to be here. I feel like the lefty coming out of the bullpen to face the one hitter. You know, I come in and talk goaltender, so that's what I do.
Most important position in hockey.
It is.
I will admit that.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yes.
And as they point out, it is a volatile situation. If you're a goalie, the perception of you can change from one year to the next. I'm thinking of Jeremy Swayman at number 4, who is among a group of 3 that did not make this year's top 10 goalies right now. Emphasis on right now. So taking a look at this, we saw Shesty at the top. Obviously, we know this year that one goalie not only won the Vezina for the 3rd time, but the Hart Trophy. So you figured that might impact the top of the chart. But from a goalie's perspective, the way that a goalie can be perceived so differently from year to year, is that just part of the position that is so challenging?
I think it is. It's two things to me. You're so heavily reliant on the team in front of you. If your team doesn't play well defensively, I don't care who you are. There's probably, you saw the top of that list, a handful of guys who I say are system-proof, meaning that they're good no matter what's in front of them to a certain degree. A lot of guys, if your team's not defending well, I don't care how good you are, how good you think you are, you're going to let goals in. So I think that's why, A, it's volatile, and B, it's just a very difficult position to master and to be good every single night. The technicality, the players are so good offensively now. Even if you're playing great, you can still give up 4 or 5 these days. So I think those are 2 of the reasons in my mind why it's hard year to year to be at the top of this list.
So we're ready to jump into the countdown, starting at number 10 with a gentleman who's so pleasant, Linus Ullmark. And people will say, well, what does that matter? Well, teams look to their goaltender to set an emotional tone. Remember when he was grumpy? It never happened. He's so pleasant, so likable, and we remember what kind of a goalie partner he was with Jeremy Swayman. From night 1, as the Ottawa Senators goaltender, he became beloved. Why has he been such a good goalie over the last several years?
You know, he was a little underrated coming out of Buffalo, signed with Boston, got a pretty good contract, which surprised me, and then he played great in Boston. Now, part of that, I think, again, was their system. They always defend, they play hard. He had a bit of a tandem there with Swayman. So I was interested, excuse me, I haven't spoken in a while, interested to see how he would do in Ottawa when he got away from Boston. He started a little slow, but I think he picked up momentum. He got used to it. He got used to his teammates, and he finished the year really strong. And I think it's because of, as you mentioned, his demeanor, the quietness of his game. He's not all over the place. He's very structured, very technical in his spots. He doesn't overdo things, overplay things. So I think he puts himself in a good position to make every save. And again, as the year went on, I thought he just got better and better for Ottawa.
And that's what they needed. They needed some confidence that the guy back there was going to stop some pucks. And that's not a team, to go off what you're saying. They're getting better, but they don't overly defend. I mean, they don't defend like Boston did when Ullmark was there. So maybe a little bit of an adjustment, but I was impressed by him. I think the biggest thing was he missed some time. So Ottawa obviously makes the playoffs. It's just huge for that organization this past year and moving forward. But, man, if he can stay healthy, I think this team's got an even better chance to move along inside that playoffs.
Most wins in a single season by a goalie. Franchise. That's all time. Since 16-17, you're talking about not all time, but a significant amount of time. And we remember Craig Anderson and what he did there. We're in the winning business. And to Rupper's point, all people want is for their team to make the playoffs and have a chance at winning the Stanley Cup. For them to take the strides that they did, Schneid, how important a piece was Ullmark to that advancement?
To what Rupper said, they needed stability. They needed consistency. They've tried to find solutions. They tried Korpisalo. Craig Anderson was a stopgap a bit at the end of his career, but played really well. They've been, it's not for a lack of effort, but I think they finally found the right guy. The guy who carried the mail a bit in Boston, had won a Vezina, had that confidence, had the resume. Because, again, I don't think they needed the best goaltending in the league. I think they just need a consistent, good goaltending. And you saw what happened. They made it to the playoffs because, again, they don't defend as well maybe as they could or will in the future, but they can score. So if they can keep the puck out of their net, you can see what happens to that team, and Ullmark's the guy for that.
Up next at number 9, the Kemperer. One of us dressed in LA Kings colors to salute number 35, Darcy Kuemper. What a campaign by him. First time he reached the finalist stage of the Vezina voting. Of course, the 32 general managers vote on that award. And for Kuemper, who already has a cup on his resume, to put up the kind of numbers he did was enormously impactful for the Los Angeles Kings. Rupper, this player, that system, that fit, why does it work?
I mean, he's a big goalie. He's got the skills. He's got the attributes to stop the puck and be a top 10 goalie in the National Hockey League. And now when you add that to this team that is probably the best defensive team through and through, in my opinion, you're cooking with gas. And I just want to tag it with this before I get to Schneid's. He could really break down Kuemper's game. I played with Darcy Kuemper his first couple years in the league, and what I love and what I'm seeing here is I think Darcy, he's always had the attributes. He kind of lacked some confidence, and I love that we're seeing it. That Stanley Cup, the way that he's kind of gone to different organizations, has thrived in different organizations. I think it's serving him well, and this guy has deserved every bit of his Vezina nominee this year.
Absolutely.
I love watching it.
Yeah, to echo that, I think he's a veteran guy. He's been there. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's been in different franchises. So he's seen a bit of everything. And, you know, again, just to speak to the volatility of goaltending, he had two mostly forgettable seasons in Washington, signed the big contract after the Stanley Cup. And then, as you mentioned, he gets to a place where they defend well, and he gains some confidence back. He becomes the guy who he was maybe earlier in his career. And you can see what happens. He's quiet. He's big. He's efficient. Again, he doesn't get phased or rattled by things, I think, because he's an older guy who's experienced things. So I think he was a great fit in LA. He had a tremendous season, big part of the reason why they got there. And even the playoffs, we saw that game against Edmonton where, you know, it was a 2-1 final or 2-0, and I think he made 48 saves, and you could see his ceiling when he's playing well and on. So a much-deserved top 10 vote for him, and, you know, we'll see how he goes in the second year there, but I think they're pretty comfortable. Again, effectively was dumped for Pierre-Luc Dubois. They kind of traded bad contracts there because nobody really wanted the player, and it's great to see both of them succeed, but Kuemper, a tremendous season last year in LA.
Fresh start, clean slate for both guys, and they both flourished last season. How about the guys who just missed the top 10 countdown? Here they are. Jacob Markstrom, Dustin Wolf, and Jeremy Swayman. Jeremy Swayman was the goalie for Team USA at the World Championship. They waited 92 years between winning that tournament. Winthrop was the name of one of the guys who played on the 1933 team that won it. We don't have people named Winthrop anymore. It's been a long time. Swayman, so good there, but this last season, missing training camp, how significant was that for him?
He never really got on track. He had the whole contract dilemma, missed most of training camp, just never got going to start the season. Sometimes as a goalie, if you get behind the 8 ball, you feel like you're chasing it all year. I don't have a good start. I have bad numbers. I'm not winning. Now you're kind of chasing. You try to do a little too much. So clearly a disappointing year for his standard. I think he's got the talent. I think we were a little out over our skis on him last year, having him 4th. He'd had a tremendous run in Boston, but he'd never been the guy. So this year was his first year as the guy, and that brings a whole different set of pressure. So maybe the contract, the training camp, all that played into this past season. I think he's got a lot of upside. I think he could definitely be back on this list next year. But for now, I want to see him bounce back and have a good year as a full-time starter.
Yeah, I mean, I think the world of Jeremy Swayman. It was a bad team. There's no other way to put it. The Boston Bruins had a tough year, and I don't love the way that his season started, kind of getting in a bit of a rhythm. So I expect him and the team to get better, and this guy is still an elite goalie in this league.
What about Dustin Wolf? His rookie campaign for the Calgary Flames, Canadian market, rookie goalie, you can appreciate just how special what he did was.
You know, I think it was pretty anticipated, too. He'd won all the awards in the WHL and the American League, so I think people were really waiting to see what he could do at the NHL level, and he did not disappoint. He's a unique profile. He's not the biggest guy. He plays actively. He's all over the place, and in a good way. He made it work, and it was very impressive to see what he did for that team. I think his upside, he's still got room to grow, and I think, you know, in most cases, you could put him on this top 10 list. I'd like to see him do it again. I'm a big believer with goaltending and track record, consistency. Can you do it year after year, year in, year out? So he's on that way. He's got a good start. So, you know, again, going forward, we could see him on this list multiple times.
The goal save above expected there, 24, whatever it was, 0.7. I love the story because I don't think anybody thought this Flames team, at least certainly I didn't going into last season, that they'd be on the cusp of making the playoffs. And they were right there. Dustin Wolf leading the way. And to your point, Canadian market, that's a lot of pressure for the young fella. I love what he did. Can't wait to see what he does next.
We've reached our first break. When we come back, the Elite 8. Starting with this guy. How about scoring a goalie goal? Where does the Gus Bus land? He belongs on our top 10 goalies right now. Welcome back to the top 10 goalies right now. 2 names revealed, Linus and Darcy. On to number 8. Goalies are expected to keep the puck out. What kind of added value is it when you put one in the net, Schneid's? How about Gustafsson?
Well, I wouldn't know, Tone, because I never
apologize.
scoring a goal.
Touchy
Always
subject.
On my list of things I wanted to accomplish in my career that I did not. Yeah, I mean, this guy, he's starting to creep up that list and become, I said, track record, dependable, consistent. 2 of the last 3 years, he's had really, really, really good seasons, and he's gotten the Minnesota Wild the playoffs last year. So I think this kid is starting to inch his way into that top tier. For me personally, I think there's 5 guys who define tier 1, and then after that, you can sort of shuffle guys around the next couple tiers. But I think Gustafsson's on his way to encroaching on that top tier, in my opinion.
No, he might have the best value deal of any goaltender in the National Hockey League. He's right up there. He's been awesome for Minnesota. This is a team that generally plays the right way. But I'm just impressed, too, because you mentioned about his success maybe 2 of the last 3 seasons. I mean, he's 27 years old, so I just find that goalies usually come along maybe a little bit later. It seems like he's gotten that success, tasted that success, and has been that guy for a little bit here now in Minnesota. So we'll see where it goes from here. But, man, I like watching his game. I like that, too, scoring some goals.
Yeah.
Helping your cause.
How difficult is that? Because we don't see it often, and I know goalies work on it.
I mean, the guys are so much better at shooting the puck than they ever used to be. The sticks now, they're light, they're whippy. It's got to be the right moment, though, because almost you have to plan in your head, say, hey, if I get this opportunity, if they dump it in on me. So you have to have the right conditions, because it can't just be whenever. Because if a guy's on you or you fumble it for a second, it's like it can go really wrong really quickly. So I think to have the wherewithal to say, hey, I'm going to catch this, put it down, and go for it. It takes a lot of chutzpah, in my opinion, to even try that. But these guys, they have the ability. They can snap the puck now, so I love seeing it. Let's get more goals for goalies.
I love the word gumption. I think of Darren Pang talking about the gumption that it takes to play that position. Rupper, we saw he had 5 shutouts. You played with Marty Brodeur, Henrik Lundqvist, great goalies. When you have a guy that's capable of shutting out the other team, how much confidence does that give the boys on the bench?
I mean, it's huge because you're going into games. I mean, no one goes into the game saying, like, hey, I hope we only score 1. But there might be a game where that might be all you get.
Right.
So the fact that you've got a chance and you know you have a chance to win makes you feel comfortable in the game. Maybe on the offensive side, you're not getting the looks, the touches, the opportunities. You don't sit there and think, oh, man, we've got to score 3 or 4 goals. I think that's a huge luxury to have when you've got a goaltender like Gustafsson and all these guys, really, that can lock things down if you need to.
Yeah, I think it's, I found him throughout my career. Anybody can lose 3-2 or 2-1. You can do that. I mean, you play well, we lost. Oh, well. Can you win 2-1? Can you win 1-0? And not that you got to do it every night, like you said, Rupper. That's asking too much. But to have that knowledge that, hey, we can win a game 2-1 tonight as long as we play well. We know he's going to take care of it. So I think that's a luxury for most teams, and Gustafsson gives them that luxury.
There's no one who's ever been successful in the sport that lacked confidence. Some players have a lot of confidence. I'm thinking of you, Jordan Binnington. Next up on our countdown, do I look nervous? There's your answer. That was part of the beginning of what was his coming out party to the world. Obviously, the 2019 Cup run, from worst on January 3rd to the best team and skating around with Lord Stanley's Cup. It's been some time since then. Here he is on the countdown, Schneid's coming in, and this is the story of development, persistence, perseverance, where he is now, all by himself atop the Blues all-time wins list by a goalie. Where is he in his career?
He's definitely having I don't say a renaissance. He burst onto the scene, won the Stanley Cup, kind of took it by storm, and then I think had a bit of a lull there where he was trying to find that consistency. Because, again, as you said, it takes a little bit of time for goalies to mature and develop and see all the scenarios that are going to happen and be able to process that instantly. So he had some struggles along the way, but I think he's finally back into that groove of confidence. And maybe it's just me in my old age, but I'm thinking now into goaltending in terms of who would I pick to win a game? If I had to win a game tonight, who would I choose? And he's at the top of that list. And we were discussing it before the show, with Brandon, our researcher, that he almost needs the pressure, it feels like. I don't know if he gets bored during the regular season at times, or he needs to get pushed, or he needs that game with stakes, because when the stakes are highest and the lights are brightest, he seems to play his best. And there's a lot of value in that. So, we got to get to the playoffs. But once you're there, I think he's one of the guys that you would count on one hand. They'd say, I want him in net tonight to play this game.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of people who get frustrated with analysis like this when you're talking about, I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about where his numbers are the last few weeks or where they were last game. What I care about is make this save. We need this save to lock up this game. This guy does it. So we have a lot of the other goalies on the flip side of it that have the numbers. They have that pedigree on paper when we sit there and we look and, wow, this guy's a top 5 goalie in the league. He might not always fall there. But to your point, I need to stop here. I need to win a tournament. I need to go in the Stanley Cup playoffs and go on a little bit of a run. He's right up there at the top of the list with anybody in this league, in my opinion.
What if the pressure of a whole country's on your shoulders?
60 minutes done. We've yet to declare a champion.
You give up a goal, it's all over. There is a line that you have to play to. Can't be careless, but you can't be timid.
Somebody be selfish and shoot it in the net.
Henrik McDavid scores! Connor McDavid wins it for Canada!
Best on best, and still the best. And the best player in the world ends it here in the Four Nations Cup.
Best on best competition. The goalies for Canada, just being in the conversation is an honor. To be at their Olympic orientation camp is the peak of that profession. Jordan Binnington, the Four Nations face-off starter and hero, alongside Adin Hill with a cup on his resume, and Sam Montembeault, who had about 700 saves in a particular game that everyone still talks about. I think about the fact that there's so much talent for Canada and such a proud tradition, excelling in best-on-best competition. For Jordan Binnington to do what he did, that's got to make him the odds-on favorite, right, for 2026 in the Olympics?
I mean, I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I think this was a bit of a dry run, a trial run for the Olympics. And Rupert, what you said in terms of just making that save, Canada's got a good enough team that they don't need a guy who's going to make all the saves, because you may not see a lot of shots in certain games. They need the guy who's going to make the right saves at the right time. And Jordan Binnington in that overtime made some critical saves that won them that game. So I think, you know, if you're Canada, they're having a bit of a lull in their goalie development right now. You don't have the Brodeurs and the Luongos and the Fleuries anymore. But, you know, Binnington's shown that he can win at that stage and that level. So I think he's the odds-on favorite, unless somebody really knocks down the door in the first half of the season. An Adin Hill, a Montembeault, a Mackenzie Blackwood, a Darcy Kemper. You know, those guys are all in the mix. But I would trust this guy right now if I were Canada.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to happen the first half of the season here in the NHL, but this guy, to the point, he had pressure. I mean, you talk about pressure. There's no more pressure in any of these international tournaments than there is on Team Canada, let alone going into the tournament saying, hey, if we lose, the only reason why we're going to lose is probably because of our goaltending.
Yep.
That's even more pressure lumped on him. Answered it in what you said there. Team USA was throwing everything at Jordan Binnington at the end of that gold medal game. Pop, pop, pop. Everything's stopping. Bang, goal. Here we go. Like, this is what the guy does.
He does.
I expect him to be back in between the pipes for the Olympics.
We've talked about how wired he is. The mental makeup, so vital. Here are the Team USA goalie options. You see 4 faces on the screen. Connor Hellebuyck was the guy between the pipes during the Four Nations. Joey Daccord was a part of that World Championship team that won gold. Jake Oettinger, Jeremy Swayman. Schneid, you were a part of the World Cup of Hockey team. When you're a goalie for Team USA, what's that like?
You know, for a while, you were the underdog. You had to go up against Canada. We need to beat Canada. We got to beat Russia. We got to beat Sweden. So I think now they're a bit of a favorite. They're almost in the driver's seat now, on par at least with Canada. So there's more pressure on this group of goalies than there's ever been, I think, because before the Ryan Millers, the Quickies, tremendous American goalies, but you were sort of playing with house money because, hey, we're going to get outshot by Canada. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. I think honestly, whoever plays the best going into the tournament could be the starting goaltender. I don't think anybody's locked it down yet. I think there are a lot of good options, but sometimes you have too many good options and you struggle to pick the guy. So whoever I think is playing the best going into the Olympics will be the starting goaltender.
There's going to be a lot of attention on Mike Sullivan. This is going to be one of the key decisions that Bill Guerin and Mike Sullivan, that whole USA Hockey leadership group, make. Rupper. A lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure, but you want that. These guys want it. They're not great without being able to handle that type of pressure and take that on. So I still expect, barring, like we said with Jordan Binnington, anything crazy happening in the first half of the season, I expect Connor Hellebuyck to get that opportunity. But with that being said, the best part with Team USA is they got depth. So if it doesn't work, it's not working, you throw another stud in there. They need this to be a strength if they're going to win a gold.
As Schneid's pointed out, too, the depth is significant. Canada in 2010, he mentioned Luongo's name. He came on in relief of Brodeur, and we know they won it. Sidney Crosby with the golden goal. Timeout here on the show. Next, we get to the best of the best, the elite. The countdown rolls on. There's a significant Russian flavor. From Russia with Love, we continue next. Welcome back to the top 10 goalies right now. 4 names revealed. Binnington, the last. We get to the top 6, and at number 6, coming all the way from Russia into the countdown, one of a host of Russians on our countdown. It's Ilya Sorokin. Rupper, you have heightened my appreciation for the stat that is goals saved above expected. This guy, with not an elite defense in front of him, does a lot for the Islanders to win games when they win.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think gets lost sometimes when maybe fans are looking at the season of Ilya Sorokin or the Islanders. They might sit there and be like, I don't think he was at his best. He was really good. And I think where he's at on our list kind of states that. I'll kick it over to Schneitz, who watches the Islanders, covers them quite a bit, and knows the position very well. But Ilya Sorokin's kind of that one, for me, that as an Islander fan, if I was an Islanders fan, I'd almost be like, man, I don't know where our team's at right now. Like, having him makes us feel like we're a lot better than maybe we actually are, and they're kind of in that middling ground. That speaks to how good this guy is, because this guy can make any team much, much better.
Yeah, I think having played with him a little bit, getting to know him, watching the team, he's kind of like their deodorant. He covers up a lot of the smell, at least recently in terms of the defensive play. And I think you're right. You hit it on the head, Rupper. They're in a bit of a soft rebuild right now, too. They got the #1 overall pick. They traded Noah Dobson. They're kind of bringing in some youth, and it makes me worried that we might waste the prime of Ilya Sorokin here, because he played well under duress last year. Are they going to be better this year? Hopefully. I don't know if they are. So my concern with him is that he'll get worn down. He plays such an active style. He's so athletic. He's explosive. And eventually you get beat up like that over 60 games, seeing a lot of shots. I find at the end of the year, he almost is worn down from all the work. So hopefully they can help his workload a little bit more this year, keep him fresh, because he is a guy that can get you in the playoffs. If you're a middling team or you're on the bubble, he can be the difference. And, I mentioned I think there's 5 goalies. I think maybe you could include Ilya in that, the top 6 guys, because I think he's proven year to year how talented he is, how he can carry a bad team, how he can play well behind a good team defensively when Barry Trotz was there his first year. So he's got a lot of he's a very dynamic guy and very dynamic goalie. So hopefully, again, they'll be better sooner than later so we can really see him flourish in the postseason or important games down the stretch.
From a Russian to an American in Big D, Jake Oettinger, a Team USA goalie considered for the Olympic team. And he has had some memorable moments in the postseason. There was that Game 7 a few years back against the Calgary Flames where he had roughly 100 saves. More like 70, only Kelly Hrudey ever had more. Then you fast forward to this past postseason, and it is, after all, the top 10 right now. Schneid's, the way it ended for the Dallas Stars. Yes, they got to the conference final, but it was a very bumpy exit, especially for Jake.
You know what? He's fascinating to me. I remember last year I had him on the list, I think a little bit lower, 8th, 9th. I said I'd love to see another really, really good year out of this kid. I think he's got all the potential in the world. And he did that for the most part. But then you end 2 goals on 2 shots in the Western Conference Finals. And you are relying on the team in front of you. I think Dallas is a very good team. I would love to see him break through and get to a Cup final. But it's also being a little too punitive of him because he's been in the Western Conference Final a bunch of times as a young goalie. So sometimes you punish guys for getting there and losing more than the guys that don't ever get there at all. So I don't want to do that because I do think he has the chance. He's kind of the swing goalie in the league that he could dominate the league for the next 8 years if everything goes together. He wins a cup, he wins a Vezina, because that's how talented he is. He's big, he's compact, he moves well, he's unflappable, but it just seems like he falls short recently with really good teams in front of him. I know Pete DeBoer took the fall this year, but at some point I think he has to capitalize on his talent and really deliver for the Dallas Stars, get them to a Cup final.
He got that big deal signed, I think, at the beginning of last season. I mean, when you kind of look at it, it's a pretty good deal with the cap kind of going up and where he's at and what you say how he is as a goaltender. But it's about getting over that hump, and he's gotten some cracks at it, like Schneid just said. I believe in this guy. I think this guy's got it, and this is part of that process, whether you're a player or goaltender, whatever it is, you got to go through the ups and downs. I think he'll be better for it on the flip side.
I grew up in Los Angeles. Magic Johnson got sideways with Paul Westhead. Paul Westhead was launched. Similar scenario here. It felt like there was a power struggle at the end of the season. Rupper points out that long-term deal. He's the franchise goalie. You see Pete DeBoer head out of town after having really good success getting to the conference final. How much of that sticks with Oettinger, if at all?
Well, and I don't think I'm trying to hammer and be critical here. I think we're saying this because I believe he can be the best goalie in the NHL. And if you're that talented and that good as he is, then more is expected of you. So I think the expectations and the pressure, I don't say shift onto him. He's had that his whole career. As a goalie, you face that. But this Dallas team is built to win now. They have all the components. They were a heavy favorite last year to go far in the playoffs, and they did. now it's up to you to be that guy, be the X factor, be the difference that pushes you, be the Sergei Bobrovsky that on a really, really good team makes all the saves you have to and steals the one game a series you need to win the Stanley Cup. So I think he's got to face that now.
The one thing, if I'm nitpicking, and this is completely nitpicking, because I agree, I think he'd be the best goalie in the league. His highs, man, they're high. Like, he's got some really highs. He has some blips where it just is off a little bit. Maybe that's an example, that last game in the playoffs there. But we see some rounds where he's lights out, goal save above expected is incredible. The next round, he's going against mano-a-mano against another goaltender who's not in the same league as him.
Shouldn't be.
And it's kind of too even. So I would rather just come down even. I don't need this. But I certainly don't need this. Like a little more consistency. Yeah. Don't ask him to be great every moment. I think that would serve him well, but he's got everything. Like Schneid said, I think he's a top goalie.
Schneid's just mentioned Sergei Bobrovsky. All he's done is win back-to-back cups. Oh, and the 2 Vezinas. You know he's near the top of the list. Where will Bob land? Well, eventually the Hall of Fame. But on our countdown, you'll find out straight ahead. Our countdown of the top 10 goalies right now continues. You see 10 through 5. We've arrived at the Final 4. What's most important in hockey? Winning the cup.
Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. Panthers lead 3-2, looking to close it out and make it back-to-back cups.
Sam Reinhart kicks up Florida again.
What a play! Nice like a chuck shot, he scores!
Oh, what a big goal! It's a hat trick. Sam Reinhart
down to the final 5 seconds. Rats rain down. Lord Stanley staying in South Florida. Last year was greatness. This time it's historic. The Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions.
3 straight cup finals, 2 straight cup wins. Remember when he went to Florida? Big ticket. Some people are like, I don't know. No one says that anymore. Bob, and the World Championship gold. He's a Hall of Famer. We knew that when he won the 2 Vezinas. There are a lot of people that talk about stats, and I love Rupper on social media, just jabbing people with, he doesn't want to hear about stats. And in hockey, we don't want to hear about numbers. A famous coach once said, don't tell me about the labor, show me the baby. Don't tell me about the goalie stats. He's got to win cups. This guy has, and that's special.
Yeah, what a career arc. I'm not sure there's many guys who've had a career like him, who came on the scene out of nowhere, won some Vezinas, was considered one of the best goalies in the league, and then really fell off a bit there at the beginning of his career in Florida. Just did not play well in his new environment, and is now the redemption of him. 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. Didn't start the first playoff of that run. I believe Lyon did. So to win back-to-back Stanley Cups and just re-cement himself as a top 5 goalie, I think this could be even low for him anyways. Yeah. I mean, imagine when Vasilevsky won back-to-back cups. He was the guy, number 1, undisputed. So even this might be a little bit disrespectful to Bobrovsky considering what he's accomplished these last 2 seasons. But I think, Rupper, to what you said earlier, his floor in the playoffs is pretty high. You know what you're going to get from him. Even if he doesn't play great, he'll keep you in the game. He doesn't have too many stinkers. He doesn't lose series anymore. Even behind a team like Florida, he is a reason why they've won 2 Stanley Cups, a big one.
Yeah, it's wild that we have him at 4. And when we get to the guys ahead of him, it's who you displace.
Right.
So this is where it gets really, really difficult, because to Schneid's point, what this guy has done, I absolutely love it. And I just think back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Schneid's were sitting there watching, and every game started off, seemed like the same way. Edmonton was throwing everything in the kitchen sink. Bob was making the saves when he had to make the saves.
Oh, yes.
We talked about that earlier with Jordan Binnington.
Yep.
Like, and Bob, that's what Bob does. Now, Bob can put up the numbers consistently. He is very consistent, giving you a chance to win every night. But when you need the save, Bob makes the save. And that's what the huge difference maker is for this Florida Panthers team, because they're loaded, they're legit, they're in the hunt all the time. But they're human, and they get on the run, and Bob makes miraculous saves when they need it.
It's human to blame your teammates. In the ultimate team sport, this guy never has, and that's special. From one Russian elite goaltender to another, Shesty. Igor Shesterkin, you can hear, if you think about it at MSG, the chants. Used to be for Henrik Lundqvist, now it's Igor. Igor, so much pressure in that market, and this was a tough year, coming off a President's Trophy, missing the playoffs. All the doubt, all the uncertainty, all the adversity. Schneid, he lands where he lands with that huge ticket. This year said a lot about the way Igor Shesterkin's mind is wired. What did he show you?
Yeah, I mean, he is the highest paid goalie by a wide amount, I think rightfully so. We don't talk about skill and talent with goalies very often. I think he, for my money, is the most talented goalie in the league. Watching him play, his mechanics, it's flawless. The way he moves around the ice, it's not something that many people have ever done in the league. So, I'm not trying to hype him up too much, but he's a joy to watch from a technical standpoint. He does it all. He plays with fluidity. He plays with his mind. He reads plays. He can make acrobatic saves. He can make look easy. So, similar to Sorokin, the Rangers were a bit of a mess this year defensively, and I think he papered over a lot of those problems. So if the Rangers can get back on track and sort of get back to having a solid roster in front of him, he's a guy that can carry you to a Stanley Cup final.
I mean, I'll second that. I'll even go a little further. They were more than just a little bit of a mess. Even going back to their President's Trophy winning season, that they did not defend well. This guy masks everything. So that leads, as long as you recognize that, clean up some things defensively in front of him, have a little bit more structure and predictability, this team could go. And so it wasn't a fluke that they won the President's Trophy. I'm just saying, you start defending consistently, this guy is all you need. You'll go on a long playoff run, and who knows, you might be able to get this cup back to New York.
How good do you have to be this high in the countdown at number 3 on a team that missed the playoffs? He has a teammate in Adam Fox, the first Norris winner on a team that missed the playoffs. We remember how much of a standout he was. Schneid's, speak to that he ends up number 3, so well respected that he's this high. The guys ahead of him, unbelievable that he would be this close, because those guys, their accomplishments are significantly different than his.
Yeah, once again, I think this is a guy that you don't want to waste his prime. I hope the Rangers can get back into contention and be a good team in front of him, because he is that talented and we could see some special things from him. But I think this is where the analytics and the numbers match the eye test. What you see, as you said, when you watch the Rangers play, it's a bit of a mess defensively, and he makes some things look easy. And you never know how bad some of the play in front of him was or how good some of the chances were, because it's just effortless. So, he checks all the boxes for me. And it's not easy, though. You got the pressure of the contract now. You can't get frustrated if things aren't going well with the team in front of you. So he's got to stay on that path and just mentally be strong.
I like what I see, too. He's got a little fire in his belly.
He does.
Yeah, and he shows that. So he's not going to be complacent. Down here in New York, this guy's not going to be like, hey, life's good. He's going to go work at it. And I think that's what makes him really, really one of the best goalies in the world.
The guys ahead of him, their accomplishments are ridiculous. We'll get there. But first, some interesting trends that we want to track. First, most games started by a goalie in 2024-25. We were just talking about Shesty, 61. Vasi leading the way at 63. And Connor Hellebuck, the workhorse, 62. Then, pivot back to 2010-11. Talk about 15 years ago. Whoa. Schneid's, there's Cam Ward, Mika Kiprusoff, Carey Price. A heavier load being lifted by the number 1, which gets us thinking, what about 10 years ago? Jonathan Quick at 68. I'm not good at math, but I can do a line chart and see where we're going with this, Schneid's. What does it mean to you, what we're seeing in terms of the way workload is managed?
I think it's a confluence of events. I think there's several different factors that are going into this. I think sports science and rest management and wear and tear is definitely more prevalent, so teams are more conscious of not burning your guy out. I think the league has gotten highly skilled. Back in 2010-11, you had third and fourth liners who played 5 minutes a night and were there to fight. No offense, Rupper.
Hey, what the hell is this? I'm out of here. This is garbage.
But now you got 4 lines that can shoot and score. You got 6 defensemen who are joining the rush. It's nonstop. You never have a moment off, a shift off as a goalie. So I think the mental fatigue and the physical fatigue is real. So you have to be aware of that. And you see the save percentages. Guys don't waste shots anymore. Guys aren't just throwing the puck at the net and hitting you in the chest like they used to as much. Guys are calculating. They're looking for better opportunities. They'll pass up a wasted shot to get a grade A scoring chance. So I think that's driving the numbers down. So I think you're seeing, more of this tandem play, more, goals being scored, obviously. And I think, again, I personally believe is that we had an era, from kind of when I played, late 2000s to about COVID, where you had 15 to 20 guys who were entrenched in the net, the Lundqvist, the Rinnes, the Luongos, the Fleuries, and there was nobody else. You played 60, 70 games every year. So in the last 5 years, we'd had to usher in this whole new era of goaltending to take those guys' place. So I think we're working out some of the kinks, trying to figure out who the guys are, who the guys can carry the mail, and we've seen a bunch of them, which is awesome. But I think there was a big vacuum created by that generation of goalies that we're trying to fill, which is hard to do.
No, it's going to be. We're not going to see it. It's not going to go back in time.
No.
I think this is one part of the sport. I just don't see going back to what it was. And maybe that's for the better, but it makes the goaltending position difficult because then you sit there and you have to decide, do I go and spend, where do you want to put your equity? You want to put it up top with one of these guys? You get your hands on one of these guys, you better go grab them, lock them up long term. Or do we go more tandem? And that's the struggle we've been kind of seeing in the National Hockey League the last number of years.
And one thing we always think about is you want to be at your best when your best is needed. You don't want your big guy, the number one, to be taxed. He's got to be at his best when that tournament starts in the spring. We're going to take a break. We're down to our final two. Only one can be number one. Vasi and Connor. Which one is number one? Top 10 goalies right now returns after this. My fellow hockey fans, you probably were already figuring that these would be the last two names. You see the 8 that have been revealed. Only one can be number one. Who's number two?
Andrei Vasilevskiy has been the best goaltender in the world for years.
There's just so many intangibles that go into the Vasilevskiy game that just make him so formidable.
He's a silent assassin back there.
Oh, what a save by Vasilevskiy! He robbed him!
He just looks different. He's built different, plays different.
Are you kidding me?
The fastest goalie ever to 300 wins. Unbelievable save by Andrei Vasilevskiy!
Look what now is one of the best goalies ever played a game.
As is so often the case, Rupper nails it. He's special. He's different. Conn Smythe winner, World Championship gold, 2 cups, back-to-back. With the exception of back surgery, I cannot think of anything else that has ever really put a dent in what this guy can do. You think back to the 2015 Cup Final, he's 20 years old, steps in, plays in 2 of the games, just fine, thank you. His poise, his maturity, his skill level, off the charts. Schneid's, what impresses you the most about Vasi?
I think it's his consistency. I think it's his competitiveness. He grinds. He doesn't rest on his laurels. He's kind of a made man right now for what he's accomplished already. He's only 30 years old. It feels like he's been around for 15 years. He's won cups. He's been in the Vezina conversation. He's won a Vezina. He's one of those guys that he just gets the benefit of the doubt because of how good he is. I think he's changed the game athletically for goaltenders. You don't see many 6'4" goalies who move like Gumby, and he's kind of become that prototype that everyone's looking for now, but there's only one who can do it like him. And you know what? We're in this era where you always put the legends of the past in rarefied era. The Brodeurs, the Hashicks, there we go. Boom. When you're getting named in that category, he's got 300 wins already. Say he gets 5 more 30-win seasons and a few more after that. He could get 500 wins. We're talking about guys right now in Hellebuyck, Bobrovsky, Vasilevskiy. These guys could be all-time greats when it's all said and done. It's hard to think of them when you're watching them. Yeah. But when you put them up like that, you get named with Marty Brodeur, you get named with Patrick Waugh. Like that's the company you're keeping. If he stays healthy long enough and continue on a good Tampa team, they're not going anywhere. He could set some pretty high marks and become one of those guys in that conversation.
So we had that conversation on how the positions change. We're not going to see some of those guys like back in the day, the starts that Marty got and all that. Just, where's that fine line? Well, here's the thing. What he's done, and he came in, remember, his debut was that 15 Stanley Cup Finals against Chicago. And he looked really confident in that moment, and Ben Bishop went down. So it's been, in the last 10 years, this guy's put up those numbers that Schneid's is saying that we're never going to see it again, but he's kind of done it in that era where you're not supposed to be able to do it anymore. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Right. And I think the big thing, and Patty Maroon had him, was talking about him a couple weeks ago and said he works endlessly. And the fact that he's 6'4", built like an NFL tight end, and he can do the splits and put his chin down to the ice, that's athleticism. I don't care who you are, what you do. I don't know how you do that, but this guy, he's got a little bit of everything. Vasi, the health is everything in the National Hockey League. If he keeps that, he'll be one of the top goalies when this is all said and done.
Are we in the golden era of the Russian goalie? Duh, which means yes. Schneid's 4 out of the top 10. 4 really coming down the stretch here. What is the explanation for why they are producing so many of the elite?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've tried to do a little bit of research into it. It's hard to pinpoint. It's part of it cyclical. The Canadians dominated for so long because they were the ones playing the game. And now everyone's starting to catch up. But you had a run of Finns with Lehtinen and Rinne and Rask. And then you had some Swedes with Lundqvist and, a run of Swedish goalies. And now the Americans are sort of moving the picture. But the Russians really have separated themselves. I think part of it is what they're doing training-wise. I think they're not afraid to throw these kids at young ages into professional leagues. I've heard that, and I've read that, at 14 years old, they're playing in the the pro league are 15 years old. So you might burn out a bunch, but the ones who succeed and rise to the top, the Sorokins, the Vasilevskis, the Bobrovskis, they are trial by fire, and they learn at a young age to compete with men, and I think they've carried that with them. I think that's one of the reasons why the Russians have really kind of taken over, you could say, goaltending in the NHL these days.
They have taken over, but do they have number one? Niet. That's a no. Michigan does. The state.
Connor Hellebuyck has just been remarkable in so many different areas. Work ethic, details, focus, but it's belief, what separates him from most other athletes.
Here's Cizikas. Oh, he's robbed by Hellebuyck.
You didn't know if it could get any better, but he's been better than he was last year.
It's just unbelievable.
Walker, a pass across. Hellebuyck, a good stop. He got enough to keep it out.
Man, oh man.
Congrats to Connor Hellebuyck. He wins the Vezina and the Hart Trophy, joining very exclusive company.
3 Vezinas, 2 in a row, the Hart Trophy, the league MVP. These achievements on his career resume are staggering. Schneid said it well. In our pre-show meeting, he may well go down as the most decorated American goalie of all time. Pause. The show is top 10 goalies right now. There's so much doubt about Connor Hellebuyck, even given the year he had, because the playoff stats are not flattering. Schneid, what do you make of it?
I mean, you can't deny what he's accomplished. First back-to-back Vezina winner since Marty Brodeur. Again, we keep bringing these names up of legends, so that shows you where he is in terms of historical context. You know, MVP, Carey Price, like these are guys that are all-timers. So, I mean, what he's done, especially in the regular season, is truly incredible. And just the consistency at which he does it. He's 32, so an age where, you know, things get a little bit harder, and yet he's humming along. However, you mentioned it, Tony, it's hard to shake the images of the playoffs. When we've been talking all show about winning the game, making the save at the right time, at the biggest moments, he's fallen a little bit short there. So I think there will be some question marks around him until he can have more success in the playoffs and show that he can play the way he does in the regular season in the playoffs. But for now, in terms of regular season goaltending, I mean, he's above everybody else in terms of the last few years.
Yeah, you know what? I don't envy the position. We said it at the top of the show. At the top of the show, like this is the most important position in hockey. And what I want to say is, we spoke about Jordan Binnington, and Jordan Binnington might not have the numbers that we see here, but from a Connor Hellebuyck, but he's earned something else. He's got the it factor. Now we're still waiting. Does Connor have that? I think it is in there. I don't think you're this dominant of a goaltender. Sure. I think it's just got to kind of run its course. But if you were to sit there and say to me, how would I feel if I had him between the pipes for a playoff series? I feel pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm feeling pretty good. This guy has earned so much. You're going to take some heat because of the situations and hoisting trophies, personal trophies like this, but not getting that team one. That comes with the position. But, man, I love this guy. I think he's incredible. I'm waiting for him to really break through here in the postseason.
Schneid, I admired. After round 1, he said it was a mental grind. It had to have been. This guy has so much scrutiny, so much attention, so much pressure. How is he able to cope with it?
That's a great question. I mean, everyone has their own methods, their own ways about it. He's hyper intelligent. I think he's one of the smartest, if not the smartest goalies in the league in terms of reading plays and processing information and knowing where the puck's going to be before it gets there. I think that's what makes him so successful. And sometimes with that, you can overthink things at times. Your mind gets racing, or you become almost too analytical or too thoughtful about stuff. And, you know, for him, I think it's about just playing, just going and playing, relying on his instincts, doing what he does best and does every single day that's going to make him a Hall of Famer one day. So I'm sure he has other ways and methods of doing it, but I think at the end of the day, sometimes if you start overthinking things, you get paralysis by analysis. So if he can just, like I said, just do what he does in the regular season, just have that mentality in the playoffs, try not to get overamped or too fired up for things, and I think the game will come to him a little bit more easily.
So he ends up number 1 on our list. There will definitely be spirited discussion about this online. This is the complete list. Ullmark at 10, Connor Hellebuyck at 1, and the guys between them. The guys next to me had their own lists. Schneid's. Your list does not have Connor Hellebuyck at 1.
Here come the
get ready, buddy.
Yeah, you know, again, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here a little bit because I talk about winning the game. If you needed to win one game, if the Monstars came from outer space and played planet Earth, who would you have in net to win that game?
Monstars.
So again, I talked about Igor Shesterkin. He was number 1 last year. I don't think he did anything this year to dispel that notion. He still had a great season just behind a not great team. I think he's the most talented goalie in the world with the highest upside. So I still have him number 1. Bobrovsky, back-to-back Stanley Cup champion. I can't ignore that. I put him at 2. Hellebuyck 3. I know, I'm sorry. Love you, mean it. Just that playoff really stuck in my head a little bit
Understood.
that I need to see a little bit more from him in that aspect to put him at number 1. And again, the rest, I think from 5 to 20, you could sort of pick whoever you want at times because guys have good years, bad years, you can shuffle them around. But I mentioned those top 5 or 6 guys that I think are entrenched there, and the rest, it's sort of, hey, are you playing well this year? Did you play well that year? Let's see some more guys enter that conversation of year after year.
Rupper, when people are nominated for awards, Emmys, Grammys, the entertainment industry, they say it's an honor to be nominated. These guys aren't wired like that.
Yeah.
A rankings list means a lot. How did yours stack out?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough because, we're talking about, Connor Hellebuyck, putting him at 3. That's not saying you don't like Connor Hellebuyck. You're the 3rd best goaltender in the world. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. So mine's a little bit different. I sit here, I don't understand the lack of attention and flowers that Logan Thompson just doesn't get.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it. So he cracks my top 10. Dustin Wolf, what he did, and then Jeremy Swayman. There's a fine line. There's somewhere in between what he was last year and where we don't have him on NHL Network's top list this year. I think he's a fantastic goalie, and the better this team gets with him being better this year, those two things kind of work hand in hand.
Take a look back in recent history, not too far back. We've been doing this for quite some time. Oh, Schneid's, a while back, you were among the top 5.
Oh, boy. Oh.
And that says a lot. That kind of achievement, that kind of attention on this position, this ranking list, how much does it matter to goalies?
You always want to stack yourself up against your peers. I mean, every time you play a game, you look down the other end, you say, who's down the other end? And some nights it was Henrik Lundqvist. He said, I want to beat that guy because he's one of the best, and I want to beat him and be considered in his realm. So, again, it's all a grain of sand. Like you said, you're in the top, you're in the NHL, you're a great player. But, it's always good to have recognition.
And it's good to have debate. Let the debate spin on online. Thanks for watching the Top 10 Goalies right now.